Welcome back to another episode of the Corporate Cowboys podcast. My name is Alex. I'll be your host for the next 1/2 hour consultation, and this is for free. I come across these questions. I have come across these questions over the course of this podcasting project, and now I've got a bunch of them that I could just pull from sources like Reddit, like Quora, like Google, like Yelp, whatnot. Now, today's question really goes to the heart of, I think, professionalism and what is the corporate culture really like. You see, you fucked around. You fucked around. You wanted to sign up for the corporate war. You signed on the dotted line. You took the blue pill, and now you're in the bitch. Now you're knee deep. Now you're knee deep in shit, and you've got to keep moving. So, what do? Well, if you can't figure it out yourself, you could always hit folks like us up. We're professionals, career consultants, we're corporate cowboys. We could point you in the right direction, but you're the gun. You've got to go off and get that. You can hit us up via DM, direct message us on Instagram. That's at corporate cowboys with a Z at the end. On Patreon, you can find us. That's the Corporate Cowboys podcast. There are multiple tiers. Some of the higher ones allow for a question and answer function. You could also suggest questions and prompts for future episodes, whatnot. Now, today's question comes from r/career advice. And here they're asking, the manager suddenly becomes too nice, in quotes. Should I be worried? I think if anything happens suddenly, yeah, it should be a cause for concern. You should take it into consideration. Maybe some precautionary measures might have to be deployed. But worried, just outright worried, nah, maybe not. Maybe not. Take it, I tend to take most things, most all things at face value. I think that really requires a sense of faith, a sense of trust that you can imbue onto others, right? That you can impart onto others. Otherwise, you're going to go through life being a paranoid, nervous wreck, borderline schizophrenic, right? And it's best to not be that way. Truthfully, honestly, it really is. So, the body of this says, my company is going through layoffs. My manager has previously assured my team that as far as they know, we're safe. That said, I'm the youngest and least senior of the team, so most at risk of being laid off. Yeah, I mean, I've got no comments thus far. We always had a frenemy relationship. We, as in me and the team, my manager has spoken very highly of my performance. I'm going to say them and their manager. So we always had a frenemy relationship. My manager has spoken very highly of my performance in private, while at the same time engages in sarcastic banter with me in public. They would not say anything nice to me when others are around. That might be a potential red flag, right? If your manager isn't building you up at the same time that they are giving you character, like not knocking you down, but like informing your character, that's questionable. If in private they're building you up and in public they're knocking you down, obviously what occurs in public is informing public opinion, regardless of how you feel about or regardless of how they feel about you in private, right? Within the last 1 to 2 days, my manager suddenly becomes very nice. They began praising me every chance they got and always make sure that others heard it. Saying things like, in quotes, you're so productive and efficient, or in quotes, this is great work as usual. something they never normally do. Do you think this could be a sign that my manager is feeling guilty because they know something I don't, i.e., I'm about to be laid off? Moreover, at the weekly meeting, my manager shared that they just got a $150,000 budget increase after having their proposal budget slashed in half. And they had no idea why. Could this be a sign that the team would be laid off, hence freeing up the 150K for something else? I think that last sentence there is miswritten, mistyped. But I think we get the gist. So the manager comes back to the team and says that a future budget has been approved with an increase of $150,000, where previously they proposed a budget and they got smacked down, and so they had to take a cut. But now, all of a sudden, it's being increased. And this person is trying to put our OP, this person is trying to put two and two together, is attempting to put two and two together. That's because the manager has all of a sudden become too nice. And this what would otherwise be good news of a budget increase, those two items put together should amount to a cause for concern, a cause for them to be worried. Should it? I want to say no. Off top, no. But approaching this as a corporate cowboy from the outside, you want to ask yourself, being the least senior, being the most junior, right? What chances you stand of getting a piece of that 150K, right? Why else would they be sharing this information? Are folks going to start getting increases in salary? Is it 150K for the division to use on resources? Or will they be divvying it up amongst themselves in terms of salary? Now, as a junior associate, you want to ask yourself what the prospects look like for your advancement, for your continued development, and whether or not that increase in budget will be involved, right? How that increased budget is going to be utilized. Because it's obvious that you have a stake in the team, you have a stake in the organization, in the work that gets done. And so why wouldn't they? Now, if you do the math, and I would be asking these questions in person, which if you would like to set up something in person or virtually, right? The rates are reasonable, and our associates would be more than happy to incorporate you. If what you need is guidance or orientation, a second opinion, you need somebody to look over an employment contract for you. Make sure you're getting your time's worth, your money's worth, your development's worth. Hit us up. That's what we're here for. It's a corporate war, baby, and you need as many associates as possible. Ask yourself whether or not you see yourself moving up in the coming year. And if you don't, start looking elsewhere. How else are you going to move up from being the most junior associate? Take the experience you have thus far, refine those skills, be the best at your job, right? You can leave a job being the best so you enter into something better. If you're shooting out applications, if you move as professionally as possible, you can leave one position having done great work as usual, right? Leaving from A place with a very nice manager, potentially a recommendation letter is in order. You might have that bridge you can come back to later. Don't burn it, obviously, but keep it moving. Send your application out to other organizations. You want a salary increase or you're worried about job security? Well, don't leave that in somebody else's hands to be decided by somebody else. That ain't smart. That's not logically sound. It really isn't. You want to take your development, your personal and professional growth into your own hands, something you can control. And if it isn't at the organization, if it isn't at the place you are at now, it lets me know, and it ought to let you know that you should be looking. You should be looking. So either you meet with the manager, go over what your professional development plans are. I don't mean go over in detail, but as professionally as possible, let them know that you're interested in something more, in something better. More responsibilities equal more money. You have to learn how to speak with the manager you have in front of you. You have to learn to hustle. Most every most every manager or individual in a supervisory position tends to stick to a script of sorts, depending on whether they're managing people, managing products, managing processes. There's a script for these individuals, these certain individuals, because they are being reported to, right, as being supervisors. They're in charge of others. So they're being reported to, but then they also have to report to somebody or something else. They're in the middle. They're in the middle. So you've got to learn to work with them, to navigate the corporate ladder, to navigate the corporate hierarchy in a manner that allows you to move up. Where there isn't a vacuum, you create the vacuum. I mean, don't hold on. Hold on. Let me retract that real quick. Let me walk that back. Don't go creating vacuums. You identify vacuums that exist already. So nobody feels left out. So nobody feels cut out. Right? Don't go creating vacuums. Unless you know what the fuck you're doing, and that's a whole other level of corporate war, which I've engaged in. And if you need help, if you're in the process of something hostile, if you are strategizing, we're more than happy to help. Again, the rates are reasonable. Work on, what is it? Contingency or commission, percentages, all that. That being said, if your manager is being too nice and it's causing you to worry, I mean, I'm not in your shoes. I don't know the full extent of the situation that you're in, but it's causing you to worry. It could be a gut instinct. Don't outright ignore it, but at the same time, don't let it control you going forward. Move. Keep it moving. You want to be a professional, a consummate professional, and develop your skill? Then do that. Do that on the back of your manager, on the back of this $150,000 budget increase. Now, as the most junior associate, is the time. I mean, what have you got to lose other than your fucking job? And you're already worried about losing it as it is, as it is. So, how do you stand out? How do you stand out? Well, have you thought about an improvement in the workplace, an improvement in the workflow that hasn't before? This could be that moment in time where you propose it, maybe not just to your manager, but to their manager. So you stand out. Now, you may want to do that in writing. You may want to do that verbally. Personally, I would keep records. I would create the evidence, a paper trail, so to speak. Send emails, write the proposal, Again, folks, we don't know the full extent of what industry they're in, what organization they're in, what the hierarchy looks like, how many middle managers and the span of control those managers have. We don't know if the departments are isolated or are siloed, or if there is some cross communication taking place. We don't know how deep in the shit this person is because they're new. They're newbies. They're juniors. It might not be their first year. Let's take a look real quick. Is it their first year? It says here, no, they don't know. Well, we don't know, but they don't list it being their first year or them being on the job 3 months and then all of a sudden being worried that a layoff is imminent. We don't know that. But they should be aware and they should take into account that if they want to continue developing, right, they ought to turn this worry into motivation. They ought to turn this worry into outright ambition. You're a junior. What have you got to win? Right? Don't worry about what you've got to lose. If you're already worried about losing your job, you fucking lost that shit. Worry about moving up. Pretend you lost your junior job and you won a senior job. The opportunity is there. It's your duty to maximize it. It's your duty to take advantage of it. But the manager being nice or too nice one day, I mean, maybe it was a $200,000 budget increase and they already kicked themselves 50 grand. And now they're being really nice because shit, they're living on cloud nine right now. They're feeling euphoric. They're feeling that euphoria, having skimmed out the top. They're living in creamland right now. Let's take a look at some of these comments. Yeah, I was going to say, don't read too deep into your manager being too nice all of a sudden, being too happy. Don't read too deep into it unless what they changed their medication and you ain't aware about that. If you're not aware of that, why are you worried about it? All right, let's take a look at some of these comments here and comment on them. Give a brief opinion. It's not informed. Again, it's not fully informed. So don't take anything I say as legal advice. You might as professional advice. If the jacket fits, wear that bitch. If the boot fits, lace that bitch up. But you still got work to do. You can't just wear the jacket, wear the boots, and have folks call you by a different name. That's not how it works. You've got to put the work in. And that's where the reputation comes in. And that's how you become known. That's how you move up as a corporate cowboy. Motherfuckers want to work with Alex. They know Alex costs. They know Alex has rates. They're reasonable, but for some, it might be out of somebody's range. Right? But if they want something done right, they want a professional to be doing it, they want a corporate cowboy. Even if they don't know the term, they know that's who they're hiring. I'm running and gunning. The first comment here says, maybe the manager has received feedback about their banter or lack of praise in public, and may be worrying about their own position. So they are working on improvement. You see, there's so many angles to this. There's so many angles to this that we haven't considered whether the manager got feedback from a higher up on their own level. See, I mentioned that we've got to take this into account. How many middle managers there are, how many rungs there are between you and the manager, and how many rungs are between the manager and their manager. We're dealing with middle managers here. And they've got their own metrics to satisfy. They get their own feedback. They ought to be worried about their own development. If they're not, if they're just standing still, if they've become complacent, sitting ducks, if you will, that's more opportunity. That's your opportunity to identify and maximize, take advantage. Second comment here says, if you are not generating money and aren't essential, I'd be worried. Okay, yeah, but that's obvious, right? And it's unfortunate that the obvious should be stated, but if you're just fucking standing around, if you're the most junior or the least senior, it's funny how they wrote it in the body. I'm I'm the most junior and least senior. Okay, so I suppose you could be both, but that's redundant. So if you're the most junior, if you're fresh on the team, the freshie, the newbie, not doing shit, just standing around, what, waiting for orders, waiting for work, not taking the initiative, you're fucking up already. And if you've identified that and that's what you're worried about, then you're worrying for good reason. You've got reason to worry. This person continues, yeah, I'd be worried. However, if this manager is buttering you up, then they are telegraphing their worries that you might leave. See, that's possible too. If they're being too nice, if they're being not excessive, but they're being generous with their praise. They're being generous with the positive feedback, right? Not so much criticizing anymore, not so much being sarcastic anymore, but yeah, they've flipped. It could be that they're worried you might recognize your value and leave the team. They just got this increase in budget, so they're going to need hands on deck. And if you're outside scoping the scene, looking at organizations who might be hiring, they might be worried. And so now they have to play nice. Now their hand has been forced. They need to kiss up a little bit, right? They say when they need you to keep their job so they can be a manager. Okay, yeah, that's true. Without you, they don't have a job either. Without you, who the fuck are they managing? Your job security can go away, but this reaction is crucial to figuring out what the job outlook is like. It shows that the manager too is in a state of fear. They don't have a good outlook for what's to come this next quarter or what 2023 will be like. Okay, this sounds here like projection. This sounds here like uh, speculation, really. So I'm not taking everything this commenter is saying as valid, but going down a rabbit hole, it's possible. I mean, what's not possible, right? But it is possible that the manager is worried about what the future quarter is bringing. So now they're playing nice, cupcaking a little bit, cupcaking with you in public, saying what a great job, what a great asset to the team you are. Not what you've become, but you are and always have been, right? So they're being really inclusive, which again, there isn't anything wrong if they're scared about keeping their job. If they want to be keeping their job, then they're going to focus on their job. And if they've been slacking in the past, bullshitting, being sarcastic, and being more of a buddy than a manager, now if they're worried about keeping their job, no, they're going to turn on the manager switch. They're going to become a manager, managing. They might even bump it up a notch and become a leader, train you to become a manager, lead you to become a leader. But again, you see, now I'm projecting, I'm speculating about how it should be, how it ought to be. It's not reality. I mean, it's not impossible either, but just based off the context that we've been giving in the body, it's not reality right now. The comment continues, I'd disregard any layoff messaging since it's all BS. You see how inconsistent it is already. Layoffs to save money, yet 150K is freed up to spend suddenly? That's a distraction. Yeah, that's a distraction. Like I said in the beginning, worrying about something you don't have your hands on, worried about something that you cannot control other than your own professional growth and development, is worrying for no reason. It's not a valid concern. It might be something that you could take into consideration when making your professional decisions, your moves to develop further, when approaching the manager. right? You could incorporate that into your hustle somehow, into your own proposal. But if it's not in writing, if the names aren't listed that are on the chopping block, if it hasn't turned into a fucking battle royale type of competition where managers are now trying to decide who stays and who goes, don't worry about it just yet. Don't worry about it just yet. Sure, consider it. But if you ain't looking outside, you really ain't looking anywhere. You have to start looking inside first, right? And if you definitely are not, I mean, if you're done looking inside, then start looking outside. But if you haven't started looking inside and you're not looking outside, you really ain't worried, dog. You're really not fucking worried. And it shows. The heart of the matter is who is looking out for you? That's what the commenter says. The heart of the matter is who is looking out for you? I could answer that. You're supposed to be looking out for yourself. You're supposed to be looking out for your development. It should be in your best interest to develop professionally. Your manager is more than happy to keep you a junior for the rest of your fucking life. Unless, like I mentioned before, they flip the switch, they turn on that manager side of them to develop you, and they become a leader themselves and lead you to be better, lead you to get promoted, lead you to your own professional development. But that's rare. It's not the norm. I mean, it should be, it ought to be, right? But again, that's me being idealistic. The heart of the matter is who is looking out for you? The question you should have is if you should start looking while you have a job. It could not hurt to apply to jobs, then see where you should gamble. No, then see where you should gamble when you have this. Yeah, I guess. But this is really weirdly worded. It could not hurt to apply to jobs, then see where you should gamble when you have this job and other offers. The worst you can do is to decline the offers and ride it out. That's right. That's right. The worst you can do is decline the offers and ride it out. If writing it out means that the fears or the threats, the actual threat, the imminent threat of layoffs is a reality. But that's not to say that you shouldn't be applying. You should be always be applying if you're not happy. If you're not happy with the work that's being done in your organization and you yourself have exhausted all opportunities internally inside of the organization, then yeah, you should be looking outside. I want to say you should be looking outside always, right? But if you're always looking outside, what the fuck is getting done inside, right? I get it. Maybe you're applying off the clock and all that. You're not so much focused on your job while you're off the clock, so you can send out applications and whatnot. But if it's a position, unless it's a position where internal growth, internal promotion, advancement is not likely to happen, I wouldn't worry about shooting out applications just yet. You've got opportunities internally that you haven't explored, that you haven't even identified. You just seen a 150K budget increase be floated across your desk, your team, right? And you're taking it as a bad sign. Maybe you ought to reevaluate how you see opportunity. Maybe you ought to reevaluate how you perceive threats. Because not everything that invokes a sense of change is a threat. Not everything. Change just means something different. It doesn't always mean something more or something less. It's just something different. And that change could be in the quality of work, the form of work, the manner, the subject, just something different. And you've got to keep evolving with it. You've got to keep moving with it. Otherwise, you get left behind. And you do that by slacking off, by not focusing on your job, not taking care of your business, which should be personal. It's personal. It always is. You want to develop personally. So what you do professionally reverberates, fucking resonates throughout the organization. They ought to know, damn, Alex was here. And that fool's a junior. That fool is the most junior, the least senior guy here. Motherfucker puts in work. But you aren't there yet. You come into us with questions, we're more than happy to answer. All we ask is that when the opinion is given, you don't take what we're saying as a criticism either. It's just options. It's just options for you to exercise. You're the client in this instance, right? And I would have more than one, at least 10 questions for you to really identify and get to the root of your situation before I can give you a semi-informed opinion. But this is a 30-minute free consultation. You can share it with your associates if they're in the same position. Just know that every position is necessarily the same. Everybody should be moving up, striving to move up. Every position is entry level forever. And like one of these commenters said, if the manager is worried about their position, but you think that motherfucker isn't feeling entry level? You don't think that motherfucker is worried about getting laid off? It's not something that's just kept for entry level positions. You got this. Proof of life for this one is Friday, December 30, 2022. Have yourselves a nice weekend if I don't get back to you. I'll catch you in 2023.